I like it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BODcast with Alli and Chris. I'm Alli.
And I'm Chris.
And today we have a special guest with us, Tom Elliot, who is the mastermind and producer behind, what was it called again?
23 Vitals.
23 Vitals. I know you just told me that, but
Yeah.
I wanted to bring you on to talk about this today because it's talking about immunity. And our health is very, very important. As we know, COVID really punctuated for everyone the importance of taking care of your health, and everyone's going about it in a slightly different way. But I felt like bringing you on and talking about what your company is doing and what inspired you to create it would be a really good time to do that. So thanks for coming on board with us today.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thanks. And I know you're on vacation, so you took time out of your vacation to come join us.
Yeah, we're on vacation. My sister has my son and her boy heading to the zoo. There's a zoo in Prescott, Arizona. Who knew?
I had no idea.
Yeah. And Prescott, Arizona, by the way, is a phenomenal place if you've never been here before. And so tomorrow we go to Jerome. We drive through Jerome, then down to Sedona. I'm probably going to camp out. I brought stuff to camp, so it should be
very cool. Nice spring break.
Good spring break. A little one.
So talk about what 23 Vitals does. I know you have a marketing and branding background, and that's what you've been doing since you got out of the military in your 20s. And so just kind of share with us a little bit about your story and what brought you here and us together and everything.
Absolutely. So the 23 Vitals story, it began when me and a few others, because 23 Vitals is not a solo project. It was basically 5 dads who were just through happenstance all seemed to have just met and were working together on another project for another company doing a different thing. And when there were murmurs about a lockdown and different things that were unsettling, like going into the end of 2019 and then beginning in 2020, I reached out to the doctor I was working with for another project, and I asked him, hey, what should I be taking for myself and for my kid so we can make sure we're getting the vitamins we need. And I've been into supplementation and vitamins and living healthy since I was a kid. So I had my own ideas of what I should be doing and taking. However, this seemed a little bit more extreme. So I was like, and when you don't know, when there's a fear of, what is this? We have a virus. We're going to be on a lockdown. What are you talking about? Things started to get crazy. And so that the fear mechanism grows and you just start, freaking out. And I asked him what we should be taking, and that led to a big shopping list where I went to Amazon and I bought it all, and it came out to like around $300 and some. And we all did this. We exercised. We all shopped around to create this, set of things that, were shared with us. Everything from the fundamental micronutrients, vitamin D and vitamin C, and two more complex things like, selenium and zinc and things that I did not have on my protocol.
Okay.
And the intentions for me were just, I wanted to know what I should be doing for myself, and then also for my grandparents. I was worried about my grandma and my mom, So that's what spawned like the co-creation of 23 Vitals. My background being a digital marketing branding guy, I had just got done, giving blood, sweat, and tears to help another project, be created, where we came up with a nootropic line for gamers, esport athletes. And
interesting.
Yeah,
that hits home for him a little bit.
Well, everybody enjoys the ability to focus for long periods of time.
They're definitely a group of people that are not known for getting their nutrients in on a daily basis.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that because at the end of the day, the interconnectedness of everything is amazing. So, my own story, I got involved in internet marketing in my 20s and enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed computers. I've always been kind of a nerd. Not that if you're dealing with computers or marketing, you're a nerd. But I've always been kind of goofy like that. Like I enjoy, games and just weird stuff and marketing. And so I've been working with brands, helping people create stuff off a napkin and being able to take that idea and bring it to life in a visual, digital format. I enjoy it. It's what I love. So when this happened, I got the list. I got back to him. I'm like, hey, by the way, I feel better. I feel good, But I also understand the placebo effect with supplementation in general. I've always known that. It's one half what's on the list and what are you putting in yourself, and the other half is the mental side of I know I'm doing the right things, so now I just feel better.
It's an expectation.
Right.
Yeah.
You gain a peace of mind factor. So I got back to the doctor, and the doctor, the team, by the way, everybody is an all-star. Everybody's a veteran, been doing this for 15 years, 15, 20 years plus. And what I mean by that is the supplement manufacturer we were working with, the flavor specialist, the doctor that created the, our precise formula. He happens to be the doctor that works for Tony Robbins, and that's how we got into his book, with that chapter. Tony came out with a book recently called Life Force, and not that there's a big long thing about 23 vitals, but that that one paragraph in there in the appropriate place was relevant and timely, and we were appreciative of that. So
cool.
So we got together and said, hey, how quickly could we create something, knowing that right now people need some peace of mind. And we got to work, and within 120 days, we went live with 23 vitals, and that was a big feat because in that same time frame, while I was working on the brand and the content and the packaging, all the little detail stuff that I know is important, while I was doing that, it was interesting. Part of me was hoping to see a bigger brand come to the table with a solution.
But they didn't. They didn't.
But they did not. And nor would they even broach the subject or the topic. And and what I mean by that is I was looking at guys like Aubrey Marcus at On It, David Asprey at Bulletproof, Ben Greenfield, all these guys who I personally had been looking up to, as guys who were leading from the front, creating things, creating solutions, but none of them came to the table with a solution at what I felt was a time that was needed, because a 2-week lockdown, it became clear, 30, 90 days into it that this thing was here to stay for a while.
I totally get that. Yeah. So I'm amazed at how fast you put together a product and got it to market.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard companies taking years to do that, but is it because you already had the formula from the doctor, from Tony Robbins' doctor, so you didn't have to trial and error R&D it, really?
That's the thing. It was the synchronicity factor of it was too large to ignore. And what I mean by that is, my partners, all these guys are successful. They've been doing what they do for forever. Companies hire them to consult for them to make their products. So when we did this, everybody took their piece of the puzzle and applied it, and we took massive action. you know. And I think I saw a tweet of yours about massive action, which I agree with. Consistency, action over consistent action over time, you know, is greater than massive action.
Yeah,
But
consistency over intensity is what I tell
yeah,
them. We
yeah,
completely understand the synchronicity part because that's how Chris and I came to join forces together too. Each successful on our own in our own rights, but because of COVID and all of that, it just he became one of the first international long distance remote clients on the east coast of Canada. And when he told me he was a software developer, I was like, oh gosh, I hope he doesn't. I hope
She
he
thought I
thinks
was
it's
going to be all
okay.
judgy.
I thought he'd be very judgy. And he comes back at me and he says, "You know what? I want to invest and I want to partner and
yeah.
let's make it even better." And I was like, "Wait a minute! I just got myself a technical co-founder."
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
lucky. Very
that's
lucky.
phenomenal. It's a mandatory tag team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a rare
you
one
gotta have
at
it.
that, as
Yeah,
we've come to find out from talking to other people in the
Yeah.
space. It's
yeah.
pretty rare.
It's a
So,
beautiful thing.
yeah.
Yeah, the synchronicity fact, you know, all those things are out there if, you know, when you're aligned, right? You know, and what does that mean, being aligned? What it means is when you're operating from a place of where everything that you're doing is for the right reasons because you can feel it just through the alignment alone and knowing like what you're doing, why you're doing it, things fall into place so quickly. And that's how this thing, you know, came to be. And you know, I love that because even in the process of creating, you know, what we did, I told the guys from the get-go, the message within what we created, when you read the words on that website, they're equal to greater in value than the product itself.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, because what are we talking about? I wrote that content in 2020. I go back and read it sometimes. Everything I wrote is at 1,000%. Not that that's, you know, anything greater than 100%. Applicable to right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's needed. We need, you know, there's a lot of great problems to be solving, but it's difficult to solve them when you have incoherent leadership. And coherency starts with, you know, understanding, you know, who you are, why you're here, and, you know, being healthy and sober, you know, so you can think clearly, you know, and, you know, you're making decisions after a workout, you know, after you've sweated out any kind of toxins that you had in you, right? So we're happy about 23, and I'm happy about this book with Tony Robbins and him making a mention of it. You know, I appreciate him. I knew about the relationship between him and our doctor from the get-go, and you know, for me personally, you know, I know my weaknesses, and my weaknesses oftentimes are, you know, let's go. You know, we're not moving fast enough. You know, we already know there's a problem. Let's address it. And for me, I was thinking about, you know, kids wearing masks. My son, you know, 5 years old, being taught by teachers wearing masks
Yeah.
who are fearful, you know. And when you're just donning something like that, when you don something like that, you are telling everything inside of you, every cell inside of you, you can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for
You're it's a subliminal it's a subliminal slap in the cell.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what about the gamers?
Gamers.
I want to get Chris like more involved in the conversation here. So
There we go.
start talking to this guy here because that's who he used to be.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
one of the epiphanies I had in this project, because like as much as I love what I do, it's not the ideal thing for me to be doing every day. I don't enjoy sitting down in front of the computer all day. And a lot of times I am, because I'm dealing with creative or content or web developers, and you're managing people overseas to get things done maybe more, faster with more people. And I'm also very into Web3. This, what's happening, with digital, where business owners, creators, you can find whatever it is you love right now, and you can figure out a way to do that today, taking advantage of a lot of what's happening with Web3. At the same time, we're not meant to be sitting down all day.
No, of course
We're not. We're not. And it's difficult to stay in a state of creation mode when you're sitting down. When you're writing a story, or you're writing some text, or you're writing something from the heart, that's one thing. But even that, it's very difficult to just sit and flow for long periods of time. It's not good for your health. It's not, there's a point when things just kind of sputter off. And when I was going through this, I was also, taking part in, what's happening within the blockchain and a lot of these things with crypto and companies and investing. And we created the product not to address the needs of a virus or a germ. It's fuel for the immune system, recognizing the immune system works best when we're in creativity mode or sleeping. When we're sleeping, and if in a 24-hour time frame, right? If a lot of that time frame is spent and you're stressed out or in survival mode, for the fans of Joe Dispenza, right? You're in survival mode. Your immune system is not working. It's not doing what it's supposed to. So we knew that going into it. So there's people that were already immunocompromised because they're overweight or out of shape or just have a poor daily set of activities that they do because they have to
all the time.
Because they have to, right? Their job or whatever. We knew we had to come up with something that was going to at least give their body a fuel source. So, every night when we're forgiven for whatever things we did that day, whatever we ate, drank, I had 3 extra tacos. I had 2 In-N-Out burgers, whatever it is we did that day.
2 triple
right?
triples.
3 triples, which I've attempted. We're forgiven, and we're forgiven because our cells wake us up, and it's a new day. But they need fuel, and so when I think about gamers, people that are investing, people that are spending long periods of time over this right here, in the cockpit, or just sitting at home and you're scrolling on your phone. Your body's not operating at the way it should, and then you throw in finances. You throw in finances to that mix. You stress, right? Survival mode. Oh shit, Bitcoin's down, right? That means alts are down. Ugh, right? So these are factors that impact us and our ability to heal from things.
Completely understand, and we totally agree with all of that.
Are you guys partaking in these things? Are you? How long are you guys spending sitting down during your day? I know you're training people.
An hour.
Part of that is
right. I mean, because a lot of our stuff now is like phone calls.
Yeah.
We can move around a lot more. We can, get up, and I try not to sit down more than I have to. But, some of it's programming, some of it's, that's, you got to sit down for all of that.
Yeah. You do. Or you get the stand-up workstations.
Yeah, those can be very helpful. I mean, I know a lot of people have turned to them, and being able to sit down, stand up, that's being able to go back and forth. For anybody who has to sit down all the time, standing workstation's at least a good option. I've seen people use little treadmills too. Put little treadmills to at least keep your feet moving. Because I think the other part with standing all the time is it has its own issues with your posture and everything. Because standing all the time is it's not really any more natural. I know the one that Alli always suggested was stability balls.
Sit on a ball.
Yeah, sit on a ball because it keeps you core engaged and posture correct but it doesn't have the chair lets you slouch back, right?
Well, the chair is ergonomically designed so that when you sit back into it, your hips are a little lower than your knees, or they're at the same level. They're not like this. So when you sit on a ball, your hips are just slightly higher than your knee joint, which relaxes your hip flexors, engages your glutes, relaxes your lower back. So instead of everything tightening up, it would be similar to standing in terms of posture and alignment and energy flow, but doesn't have to have you standing up, because for those of us that would wear heels to the office, it's not really not good to be standing in those things.
And let's not forget the best part of the ball, you can bounce.
Oh, the bouncing up and down because it's fun. My clients would always come in and be like, "What are you? What
is happening here?
What are you on?"
I know.
I'm like, I'm on a ball.
I started using one in the office, and everybody kept staring at me like, "What? You just get used to it."
I know. Nobody actually followed suit though. That was very strange. Like,
No,
you gotta turn those moments into reels so that we get a lot of views.
There you go.
I actually don't sit in an office on a ball anymore.
No,
because I'm running around. Now what I would need is somebody just following me with a camera all day long, watching me like run and do 2 or 3 things at once and talk to clients and all of that at the same time. That would be
Alli
the real
show.
now.
That's a task for Chris. He can sort that out for you.
Except I got my own busy schedule.
My daughter would just follow me around all the time and not have to go to high school. And she could just with a stick.
3 more years.
That would be interesting.
So that would be interesting. So how did this time? How do you guys feel right now?
Awesome.
After 2 years plus of this experience, and
Oh, that's a really good question. Nobody actually asks us questions. That's
No.
wonderful. I feel awesome. I mean, we finally figured out the like marketing formula that helps us move the needle forward. So now it's just about more and more and more of that, scaling all of that. And then once we have more revenue, we're looking forward to some branding in Q3. And no, you can't have any of those chips. My son is home from spring break, so sorry, everyone. You had to.
It's a good time. We like things lively.
Yeah. No, you can't have them. He wants chips right now. I didn't. Your chips are down there. It's going to be about chips, or I'm going to take the iPad away.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, he's one that sits down too much. So it's all about so much of my activity is about getting him activity and the dog.
Yeah.
Show me later.
Dude,
Later.
stop it.
I'm not gonna kill him.
Oh my goodness.
Please do so.
So feeling really good about where we're at. We started with basically when Chris came on board, he started everything all over again. And so it's kind of like having rebuilt it from scratch, beta tested everything, tested out a bunch of the bugs, and have a bunch of happy clients, and now scaling. And so it feels like it went really fast. I mean, he just started it last January.
Great.
We only started getting clients on the new app platform last February. So feels like it's been a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
that's work.
Yeah. That's another blessing of this last 2 years, is that it gave those who took the time to look into how they can optimize things in their ideal way a chance to do it. So there's a lot of that, and there's more of it coming.
I'll be right back. I have to put the dog away.
Okay.
Dog back in the kennel.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Cool.
Yeah, but I mean, the last couple of years has been, I mean, from my perspective, I don't know that I noticed it a whole lot. Like, whenever the whole pandemic hit, I was kind of in a small town on the East Coast of Canada and just doing my own weight loss journey thing. So when a lot of that happened, I was in a spot where I could just keep going, right? It didn't really affect where I was too much, so I just kind of kept going and going. And then once we started building this, we worked remote, it was all phone calls, so... I don't know that I really felt it as much as people did. Like, if you were in New York, I could understand. People felt that pretty tight. There was a lot happening, any big city. But I kind of kept outside of cities for the most part and didn't really feel it too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just kept busy. I mean, that was the biggest part. I had all the work that we were doing wasn't really affected by the lockdowns all that much. Just, I guess, anything remote tech work, like we've seen, a lot
Yeah.
of these people went from office jobs to just working at home because they
Yeah.
could. So
Yeah.
that's been an interesting. What's your thoughts on that? That's like an interesting difference nowadays too. There's whole office buildings have never refilled.
Um, the only aspects I ever enjoyed of having like an office space, because I've had an office for my
Yeah.
own employees at times, and I've worked with companies, I've worked at companies where, it was like, hey, you got to be in, was the time I spent with the people I was working with. Because
Right.
you enjoy creating relationships, and there's a camaraderie factor. I think that's, um, is important to us as humans. We like interaction.
Sure.
As far as productivity, I mean, if anything, it just became more glaring that, like, if you're able to manage your time and energy effectively, you can get as much or more done by not having to like go in and do
Well, the
a
commute
dog.
for a lot of people is pretty brutal, right? Not having
Yeah,
to commute to work, not having to just organize a day around that.
Yeah.
And for some people, it was probably, I don't know, worse. Some people it was better, but I guess it just depends on
yeah,
living situation and stuff like that
Well, I
too.
had an office with a bunch of agents too in my financial planning business, and I only had a 15-minute commute. But just not having to do hair and makeup, not having to take my clothes in to get dry cleaned, not having to, what I
yeah,
mean?
All the extra
And
stuff.
not having all the distractions. I love the people, I love being around the people, but they were
yeah.
also the reason for less productivity too.
Right,
So
100%. Yeah, 100%.
double-edged sword
There's,
there, but it was,
Right.
yeah.
there's a lot of we do a lot of pomp and circumstance at times that's unnecessary at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't a collaborative type of environment, so I think maybe if I were in a creative space, maybe in
yeah,
marketing it's different, or
yeah,
Sure. You could
maybe
definitely see some jobs where it would be much more beneficial to actually be able to just have that quick communication that can sometimes be more difficult. Like text, you miss a lot in text.
I can see when we have a lot of developers working for us that we'd want to have an office space where everybody's at to collab, but for right now it's okay.
yeah, yeah. The most important convos can happen one-on-one on their own time, in their own time,
Right.
preferably while walking.
Yeah,
And
Absolutely.
and
probably will walk.
that's the walk and talks are the best. You want to get some problem solved, go for a walk and talk. By the time you're back, you got both people are clear, same page.
I do that with
Mm-hmm.
my clients.
Yep,
Go for a walk while we talk on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
yep. Walk and talks are awesome. Um, and the creative stuff, there's so many great tools now. There's a lot of creative, collaborative tools where I enjoy that because not everybody's on. Like some designers, I know there are times when they're on, and when they're on, I want them to be able to create freely, not on my schedule, because it's my, hey, let's do our a video call. Now I can just use Loom, do a quick record of what I would like to see, right, with my context added, give it to them, and then whenever they're in the zone to shift to my thing, they can, take it and
They can
do
view
it.
it and go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's been a lot of progression on little tools that are just helping with this whole new world sort of thing of, working remotely, working in asynchronously, right? Like when you're in an office, everybody can synchronize very quickly, but when you're not, you got to schedule a time. That gets to be the hardest part is figuring out everybody's time schedule. But yeah, I can see the stuff like Loom. It's like cool. I'll just record this, put it out there, and then you can see it whenever you want to. So
yeah,
people are adapting. I mean, that's what we do, right? We adapt. We figure out a
exactly.
situation, and we're like, cool. How do we? I mean, anybody who's a leader at least is going to adapt.
Honestly, I think
Yeah,
it's the adaptation and the lack of all of that weight of offices and the just like the old way of doing things prior
The
to COVID. I think
Yeah.
not having that has made us go so fast. because we're moving at a rate that most people are like, wait a minute, you what? Like,
yeah, we get a
why
week,
not?
we get through a week, and we've had.
This is what we've done this week.
Wait, you did that in a week?
And they're like, how did?
Right. It's just.
It's cool though.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is cool. It is. It is. It really is.
I guess when you're somebody who likes moving faster than the rest of people typically move, then not being bound to an office where everybody's moving and it feels like you're just kind of the water flowing around the rocks all the time tends to
yeah
a little more freeing.
It is freeing. On that note, I think the dynamic for me, is just recognizing like, okay, well, I could spend 100% of my time, building my network, right? And or a lot of my time building my network and creating these relationships. And looking back on what we did with 23, the ideal scenario was, and what I told myself going into it, I was like, I want to know enough about the immune system, how our body works, how all of this stuff works together, so I can sit across from a Joe Rogan or a Chris and Alli and speak confidently about every aspect of it, because I did that work. Then the same time we created the product, I was upgrading my own knowledge, and that's and for me, being a leader and always challenging myself, my frustrations were coming more from like looking at all these people who've written books on the impact of like our thoughts and things. And you can go back to Think and Grow Rich, one of the core books all these guys talk about, or you can look at like Tony Robbins' mentor who recently passed away. His name's, I'll get his name in a second, but everything in these books that they've written, right, was a complete contradiction to what people were agreeing to. And that to me bothered me. I was like, and it was hard for me to swallow, because I was just like, how could there be so many good people out there, or people that I perceive as good, and everyone from like a Joe Dispenza, even on the onset. Now you look at YouTube titles and you see more people speaking to a dynamic, right? But they were afraid to broach the topic. And that's where, for me as a marketing guy, I looked into things the same way I do for any project, where I'm looking at, okay, how do I help this brand right here compete with larger brands, knowing that those larger brands have a bigger marketing budget? Because it's all about eyeballs, right? If I can create one piece of content and then I have a marketing plan based on distribution, the impact of this content is based on the amount of ad dollars I'm going to apply to all these different outlets. And so when this thing kicked off, I went and looked at the stock of every pharma company. I went and looked at the details from the Senate. I read the report that came out of the meeting they had on Friday, when Donald Trump is meeting with everybody, and they decided that Friday to initiate a pandemic. I looked at the buying opportunity every pharma company had the following Monday. Who all knew about that? Every senator.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and then you look at like, wait a second, I know how long it takes to go through the sales cycle to pick agency A over agency B over C. And these pharma companies, they had their agencies of record with their marketing contracts, with timelines that, guess what? They just ended. End of March.
Oh.
And I saw all that from the get-go, and maybe, for me, it's like, oh, well, Tom, you saw it, but you didn't get up on a big enough soapbox. So that's on you. And so I swallowed that, a bit, and worked through my own frustrations. What's that?
Do you think it would have helped? I mean, there were a lot of people up on soapboxes talking about stuff.
I know.
And then I finally went, it's like screaming into the void. Doesn't
I,
matter.
I, my, so and that's like the struggle, right? The human dynamic struggle, right? Where I recognized people like, what his name is, it Bobby Kennedy Jr. with Children's Health Defense. I've recognized people who've picked their fight, who've just drilled down on it, and it's like, hey, I can't solve every problem, but I can sure as hell get into the fight on this one at least,
Right.
and speak on these topics, which is all we can do, right? We got to pick where's our fight going to be, and how are we going to be able to provide the most impact, and then how can we do a better job of working with other good humans and shine a light on what they're doing.
Right.
Because we didn't need to write content on stress and how our immune system works. I had already gone through that learning process through Joe Dispenza's content, which I found through Tom Below's content on impact theory. Right. You know, when I was going through a time in my life, you know, dealing with family court in California, where it was the most stressful period I've ever had, that I could remember for that long. And in that time frame of 18 months or plus, I got sick all the time. I was feeling, and I'd never in my life like felt like someone who got sick a lot. But there were times when I was sick. I would just get sick. And sure, my son was in preschool, and there's lots of germs or sneezing and cross-pollination and all that, you know, from these recently, you know, vaccinated, dosed little ones. But I recognize, like, okay, well, if I'm not feeling good mentally, spiritually, just with where I'm at, I'm going to be more prone to getting sick.
For sure.
And so I didn't have to go write that content. That content's out there. And you can look at people like, I got a whole list of different people I was like, man, we got to shine more light on these people. And, you know, if more people could see and listen to this content, they would have maybe a more perspective on the dynamics right now.
Yeah. So, you know,
and all that stuff, you know, it got highlighted even more with the trauma/drama that was on TV.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a whole different story.
You know, in these different cities.
So, what form is 23 in a liquid form? Is it a capsule?
So 23 Vitals, one scoop once a day. You get everything that your immune system needs. And we broke down every part of the immune system, every part meaning our blood, or how our cells repair,
okay,
the different types of cells, the innate and the adaptive immune system.
Okay.
Above and beyond just the foundational micronutrients, which we should be getting in our food, but we don't because food's different than it used to be, right?
So talk about that for a minute, the innate and the adaptive immune system. What does 23 Vitals do to each of those systems, and what are they for everyone listening?
Yeah, so there's two parts of our immune system, the innate and the adaptive, and they work together like a team. Like the way that I broke down, and on 23 Vitals, there's probably the best page online anywhere breaking down the immune system visually, contextually, all of it. You know, infographics. But I thought I put myself in the shoes of just the average person because I personally did not know these things. So what did I do? I went to Google. How does our immune system work? Why do we get sick? What causes an immunodeficient immune system? What does immunodeficiency mean? Breaking those things down lead you to understanding, okay, we've got an innate and an adaptive arm of the immune system that work together, where I didn't know that our skin was the first line of defense. I didn't know the dynamic of the hair follicles on our skin, in our nose, being a filter.
The filtering system.
The first part of the defense, right?
That's why there's mucus in the lining of your nose. That's where the
That's why you
boogers come from.
That's why you get congested.
Yeah, so that it can attach all of those particles and flush that, keep them from getting in.
Which is the beautiful part about how we work, right?
Right.
And you know,
silly.
As the filter, right? The nose, we got a filter. We don't need a filter. We got a filters right here. You know?
Yeah.
And when we have to blow our nose or sneeze, that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
You know, like, don't do it in people's faces. That'd be okay.
Right.
Nobody wants that. Keep your cooties to yourself.
Tissues work well. Just,
you know.
Right. You know, but even then.
Yeah.
But even then, you know, and like, and for me being an athlete, like when you get hit hard and you're wearing a football helmet, what happens?
I have no idea.
Your
head rings a little bit.
You get snot will fly out of your mask if you've been hit hard enough. If you've been hit hard enough, blindsided or whatever, that impact, snot knocked out of you.
That's where that phrase comes from.
I was like, that's where the phrase comes from. Yes. I'm going to slap the snot out of you.
Right.
And it's a real thing. You know,
football helmets can get pretty ugly.
It's an eye opener, right? First time that happens, you're like, what the fuck? Your mask is just covered, you know. But you know, I think you know these different things or things I thought about. I thought about like junior. Some of the best memories I ever had were the dances I went to in junior high. Why? Well, at that time, I'm 44. At that time, how were we dancing? We were dancing like, you know, all up on each other.
Cheek to
and
cheek.
What's happening? Our microbiomes were interacting with the other microbiomes of the people we met.
That's right.
Right? That or dance with or sweat on, right? That interaction is a good thing. I think of like, you know, we all are a leader, right, of our own army. The army is inside of us. The army is our cells. You can deflate the army, or you can fire the army up with your thoughts, your words, right? Your actions. And if you're leading a team, you want to lead a championship team to be able to, you know, come back from adversity. You pep talk them, right? You bring them to
morale.
You work on the morale of the team, right?
Yeah.
And these things sound basic, right? They sound basic, but it's exactly how it goes down inside. And I dove in deep to get real linear and analytical on how that works. And there's the documentation on the immune system, and like just bless those who do that for what they do, because it's just mind-numbing work for me. If they find creativity in that, that's great. But like, what I came out of it with was just that, like, okay, well, it just validated stuff I've already always known. And that's where it's kind of like the big epiphany. So if I'm not feeling too good about things inside, they're probably not doing a good job. Huh. Yeah.
And vice versa. It could be, I mean, we've kind of seen with gut health, if things aren't doing well inside, they can actually make you feel like things aren't good. They can play off of each other in both directions.
Yes.
100%. And how does that being impacted, right? The foods.
It's where people spiral into these weird little depression cycles where it's like there's no significant cause. There's no trauma. There's no significant thing that went on that pushed them there, but they seem to be very depressed for indiscernible reasons.
Or even if there's an event, it's like it's amplified.
Yes,
it's amplified beyond proportion to everything else, right? A breakup with a girl. Oh my gosh, now it's like this huge thing, this huge grieving thing that they can't get out of. Or somebody cut them off and they have some road rage. So now the cortisol is up and the anger isn't settling back down again. All because the gut is dysbiotic, and that has a big impact on the immune system.
It has a massive impact.
That's why I wanted to bring you in, because I wanted to find out, like, how does that get into the gut? What is it? How does it interact with the microbes in in our gut, the microbiome. Like,
Yeah.
can you get into some of the sciencey
Yeah.
stuff about it? Can I put on my little glasses and go?
Yeah.
Alli
Nerdy.
wants to bring out her nerdy girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has a massive impact. You think about knowing the skin on the outside, right? And how our skin is. So everybody's different. We're all different. But you can look down at your arms and you can pretty much get a nice glimpse of how the inside of the intestines look for you. Because we all have our own, right? And what's on the outside is on the inside. Okay? So things can get caught and stuck and all these and if you have long, the consistency, right? Better decisions, this decision to eat this versus this. If you've got a history of that, chances and you haven't been active, chances are there's some stuff going on. And that stuff got to get optimized. And the beauty of the immune system, like on our website, in that page, I have a breakdown of like how long it takes our body to regenerate. Skin, cells, tissue, there's everything that we have right now. Like if you were to go straight edge, clean slate, okay, I'm making a change. I'm only drinking filtered water. I'm only going to eat these certain types of foods because I got a blood test, and it turns out that because I'm type B or A or O or whatever, it looks like I should be eating more of this in my diet because in my bloodline's history, that's what they were eating. And that makes sense. I actually enjoy those foods. And you shift all that stuff over the course of 90 days, you're rejuvenating, flushing out, sweating out, peeing out. We're walking detoxification machines. That's what we are.
Yeah.
We are walking detoxification machines. So if you go through that period, you'll have that. Now, our product, we do have an ingredient, a proprietary branded ingredient that was specific to the gut. And there's certain people, it was actually, I've dealt with a few direct messages, all one female, the rest were male, that had an issue. They're like, hey, I'm really runny. Should I be concerned? And, what we have in our FAQs is, cut the dose in half and drink more water, and don't be concerned. There was an issue and you're flushing it out. And it won't last. And as your body gets used to the new regimen and the new fuel source, you'll go back to being normal. But we have tips for that because it's a real thing. Some people have, no effects. Some people taking two scoops a day. Because I'll send you guys product, but the weight of it is different. Like if you've ever bought like BCAAs or pre-workout or any kind of powder in a container, and you look at what the scoop is, there's a lot of fillers and fluff in these things, and this is another big. For me, when we were making this, most products you see on shelves or that brands have, they're making there's, I can't give a blanket statement of they're all, but the reality is decisions are being made based on the cost of goods, and the cost of goods are being made based on the multiple of what they think they can sell that for. They need that profit margin because the profit margin is necessary to justify the cost per customer acquisition.
Right.
At some point, there's an accountant with a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
At some point, there's a guy with a duck, and he's the one who's going, guys, I think we can
A duck.
shave off. Well, if we get this from this supplier over here, I think we're going to save a couple. We can save a couple bucks.
What does the duck say when he's?
The doc?
Oh, duck! I said, did you say duck?
It could be if it was a guy with a duck. If it was a guy with a duck, we'd probably have some. We'd have some
We'd have some
phenomenal
questions. We would have
lots of
questions.
I was like, I have lots of questions right
Who's
now.
your CFO? A guy with a duck?
And why does he have a duck? And is it Aflac?
Why does that guy have a duck? And why are his decisions always on point? If there was a guy with a duck versus a duck, we would have a lot better decision making. And the answer he would give is he would say, "Well, I'm actually operating on a quantum level. I'm a quantum CFO.
Quantum duck.
Right, it's a quantum duck.
I'm on a whole. I'm on.
The
I'm
duck
on
is like
quantum.
tied in on that level.
Yeah, but the guy with the doc, the spreadsheet, he's not operating on quantum. He's operating linear.
DOC.
He's the one that needs to go do PT in the morning. He's the one that needs to sweat and get pushed and pressed.
He needs to get off his butt.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't like the guys with docs making calls. We don't. The guys with docs, what are you doing? I'm teaching guys with docs to turn the dock in for a duck.
Because the duck is an upgrade over the dog.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Aflac.
That's what needs to be going down. If that was going down, the world would be a better place.
Right. The ducks
More
would be taken
ducks,
over.
Less docks.
Yeah, you said ducks.
There's a t-shirt.
Well, I think I just texted my gal, the gal who does my Instagram stuff, saying, like, let's see about a t-shirt about nerdy girl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
NIRTY.
We do need those. Yeah, the duck thing's funny.
Yeah.
Because I have ducks by my house, and when my son and I we walk by them, we talk to them.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We check in on them. We see how they're doing. Make sure no one's picking on each other. Sometimes they get a little feisty down there.
They do.
Ducks
They
can
do.
be feisty. Not like geese.
They get territorial.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've noticed one likes to boss people around.
Oh.
Let me
We
guess.
got- we-
Female
we-
duck.
Yeah. Well, they get fight. Yeah, they start
Yeah.
getting feisty with these ducks.
Has your son named them yet?
Oh man, we haven't named these ducks. There's too many of them, but well, we have given them some names from a book that I used to read them.
Aw.
They're all like Lack and Dak and Quack and Mac. It's funny.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's actually a famous little book. I read it to him many times.
Aw.
But yeah, so many things. There's so much like work to do.
So where's it going?
No,
Where's it going?
where's it going?
Like, what's ahead?
We're going to make some changes to the formulation for 23 Vitals specifically. There's the great thing is we move quickly. The bad thing is that we, because it was five guys that took action immediately without thinking through all the potential ebb and flows of just how business is done.
Yeah.
It wasn't the absolute priority for everybody else but me, because I was able to. And that put things in a bad dynamic because we're at a point now where it's like, okay, for this to go big, right? We need to raise money or reconfigure the partnership deal and this and that. And that's all stuff to figure out, even if I want to, right? At this point now, for me, I'm clear on what, my mission is and who I want to help and how. And
What's that?
and where I can create the most impact.
So you want to help
It's
now? Why?
it's helping the single dads or married dads out there that are in the dynamic right now where they're having to wear different hats and shift in and out of gears because the first book I read right before I was going to have my son was called Conscious Parenting. It was recommended to me. And I read it. Mm-hmm. And when I read that book, it had me I understood why it was important. I understood why it was recommended to me as like, hey, Tom, you got to read this. Because it and I'm so thankful that it happened because it forced me to think differently when I had my time with my son, where I knew that I had to, not be distracted. Let him communicate with, this was before he was talking, right? His baby. and I didn't ever imagine myself being that hands-on. I always thought that I would, I never anticipated that. But in that process, being conscious, it actually helped me heal. It helped me heal a bunch of trauma that I had no idea. I either forgot about or whatever, but it helped me put the pieces together as to why I did certain things, why I would react in certain ways. And all that trauma happened before I was 7. It was unconscious. And it was stuff that I saw or experienced with my own young parents. And me just taking a macro look at like the dynamics that we're in right now, where I'm recognizing, man, we have a lot of grown men who are children because they're operating like children because they've never healed the trauma from their own childhood. And that's an issue. It's an issue for relationships. It's an issue for parenting. It's an issue for, just judgment in general. And that healing is necessary. It's mandatory. And it's not easy.
No.
And it's never really done. Like as much progress as I've made, there's moments when I'll do something and I'll recognize an expression on my son's face and I'll be like, and I'll communicate to him, hey, I'm sorry. I did not mean that. And that's a learning moment. Mm-hmm. But I think about me being conscious about it and how difficult it is. And I'm like, man, how many dads are out there right now, or people in general, that aren't?
A lot.
And how many kids are just getting railroaded because they're not even experiencing or not even dealing with someone who even understands what that means.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because we're talking about how can you impact the future? Well, the future is these kids. Yeah. The future is the kid. I know why I'm here. I'm here to be a dad to my boy. Mm-hmm. That's why.
I love that.
And to do that right, guys like me, we have to be dads to the little boy inside of us. And to get there, to get there emotionally and just like work through that stuff, it's not easy. It is not easy with the dynamics that we're in right now. However, it is what's necessary because the only way to build bridges between different mindsets that come from different perceptions is you have to be able to zoom out and see from different perspectives. So that same process of thinking consciously or taking the time to think consciously as a parent is to yourself, right? To heal and to others. It's the same process that needs to happen in a local, city council.
Mm-hmm. Well, everything that we do as individuals impacts everybody else at large and as individuals.
So I think you're right, and I think that there's a lot of work to be done there. And I've got these things planned, and I've got I got a lot. I got a book and this and that. At the same time, I also have the time with my son, and I know that I can't get overextended with too many things at one time, And the reality is, we're capable of living much longer than they've told us. Okay. So if there's on a final note, we can live as long as we choose to. Mm-hmm. Age is how we feel, and there's things that we can do to prolong that. And when you take a look at that, you think of oh, wow, I'm in my 40s. It's pregame show. It's just getting started. You're just getting to know who the heck you are. Yeah. There's so much time to write books and to do things and to apply love and this and that. There's so much time. So knowing that, think about it. Right now, how many dynamics are going on? We have a major financial shift happening, right? Mm-hmm. There's a major awakening happening, meaning there's a lot of stuff that we learned in school that just ain't true. It's just not true.
Oh yeah.
And all these things are getting unraveled. And so what happens to a person that's incoherent and they have an unraveling of information? Fucking breakdowns.
Lots of them.
I think you're speaking directly to Chris here.
Yeah.
I see his mind going like this. Like this.
Probably in many different directions, for sure.
Yeah. So
he's quiet. He's thinking.
Well,
I'm usually quiet as what I'm thinking.
I'm glad. Hopefully there's as many seeds planted for many people, and I think that a lot of times when we hear from other people, or it's good to go, oh shit, I'm thinking about the same things or those thoughts you've had already, and
yeah.
I get those moments all the time, and so it's a blessing. I'm in Prescott right now. I finished high school in Prescott, Arizona. And a lot of my good friends are still here. One of them I just hooked up with yesterday. I haven't seen him in a while. He's a year older than me, but he went in the military as well, and he spent 20 years in, and he's retired, got kids. Their last kid's turning 18 on Friday, and I went and saw him. No direct intentions, except to go and I was like, hey, I'm coming over. We're gonna train. He's like, oh, my shoulder, this and that. I'm like, no. We're just gonna go for a walk, man. And we went for a walk for an hour, and that 1 hour walk and talk, like I reconnected with my old friend. I saw the same guy that I knew in high school, but at first that was not the case, and I think this, it's easy for us to get caught up in like the stuff, and then almost be like on a, things are over or done or what else is, and it's not the case. Like, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can have the spark of life be breathed into you at any moment. Yeah. And every day you should, like, when you go to bed at night, you should be thinking about like what you're going to do, or like you should be looking forward to waking up. And that alone is why you're here. And when you're living like that, guess what? Everything's jacked up. You're fucking you're fired up, man. You're fucking unstoppable.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel all of that lately.
I know you. Chris, what you've created, I see the effects of it.
Yeah.
The social media is on fire with this one.
Right. And I mean, that's when you have, what we found lately is just finding a real purpose to what we're trying to get through to people. And when you find that, when you have that why behind you, you can really just, you don't stop, right? The creativity flows and the ideas just keep pouring in. You hinted at it earlier, when you find that alignment, right? When you find that sense of, I know the direction I need to go, now I just need to attract it in and keep moving forward.
And everybody can find it. Everybody's got something special that they came here to share. Yeah. And I think that you guys are doing a great job, because you're on the forefront of even helping that come out. It doesn't come out when someone is not coherent.
Right.
You have to get them back into how there's a reason why you feel better when you move. There's a reason why you feel better when you dance, listen to good music. Mm-hmm. Interact with, those recognitions are when you go, that's creativity zone. That's creativity mode. That's where you sit down and you journal and you write. And then next thing you know, you're coming up with your new mission statement. It's difficult to even get there until you're food optimized, water, moving the body. I got a routine. I have an accountability partner. Yep. I'm logging in. I'm getting coached. I got people I'm working with.
Pieces together.
Yeah.
That's the foundation.
Yeah.
It's the foundation. It's PT. We're meant to be moving and grooving and doing stuff.
Well, you know what? On that note, I think it's a really good time for me to end the podcast, because between my son wanting me to help him with lunch, my other son's school calling twice now. Oh. It's a day.
No, it's good. Yeah. I got a jam too.
Tom, we really appreciate you taking time out of your vacation to come join us today.
Absolutely.
We've really loved having you on, and we'd love to continue the conversation as things unfold for you and the things that are coming into your life for you to express and serve the people that you're destined to serve start to materialize and take place.
Yeah, I'll do something special for you guys. I'll give you guys some product. I'll create a code.
Cool.
I'll create a code that you can share with everybody, giving everybody a much deeper discount. Things are already discounted. I'll give you an even deeper one. And I'll send you like a protocol that you can share with everybody. And
cool.
And I'll give you guys my little blueprint. And Chris, you can pick and pull from the stuff that you like of like how to create more impact with the smaller team brand, whatever you want to call it.
Oh my gosh,
cool.
That'd be so amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.